Hi, everybody, and welcome. Tell me, do you ever get negative thoughts pop into your head? I bet you do. But how do you get control over them? Well, that's what today's episode's about. My name is Glenn Kirkwood, aka That Referral Guy, and I help business owners grow their business with a referral system. I have a very special guest on today's call, and today we're going to give you some training around how you get control of your negative thoughts so that they serve you and don't rule your life. My very special guest today is a gentleman called Shane Bird, who is very new to my space. I met him online just a couple of months ago, and I just started watching his content. But rather than me tell you all about him, I'm going to bring Shane onto the call. Hey there, Shane.
How you going?
Mate, I'm very, very well. Now, as I said to the callers, you came onto my world probably about 2 months ago, and we've been online backwards and forwards with chit-chat sort of questions. But for the people who don't know you, can you just tell us a little bit about, your history, serving in the army, and, I know you've got kids, and just tell people a little bit of brief version who you are.
Yeah, cool. So, yeah, I'm Shane Bird. I am 41 years old now, and I was born and raised in New Zealand. So moved to Sydney in January. Now, the reason I came to Sydney there was three reasons. I was in a relationship with someone here. The other one is I have a son who is 18 years old who's got cerebral palsy, and the opportunities here in Sydney were much more vast than what they are in anywhere in New Zealand. And the third reason, which was kind of pretty important too, was I had done some training last year in neuro-linguistic programming and decided I wanted to become a life coach, because after doing that training, I was just doing it part-time alongside the farming that I was doing back in New Zealand, and decided I wanted to come here and do full-time coaching. So that's how I ended up to be here, Sydney, and being a mindset coach now. Now, up until January, I was born and raised on a farm. Outside of spending 6.5 years in the New Zealand straight out of high school, I've been farming my whole life. So it was either just working on farms, casual mustering for guys, and also running mum and dad's farm. They had 1,000 acres just out of Fielding in the North Island there. So that's pretty much a brief history of who I am and where I'm from.
Now, Shane, the reason why you came into my space is because you posted a video about anger. And my question to you now is that what got you into the pathway of neuro-linguistics programming? Is that why you did some learning about it? Because you were getting control over your anger issues?
Partially just, anger. There was a lot of other stuff. I just wasn't real comfortable in who I was and what I was doing. Like, I was the self-sabotage master. I'd sort of set out to do something and only get halfway through and then just give up on it for one reason or another. And it really came down to self-belief. I didn't really believe in myself. And a lot of that came through, like we talked about, the negative thoughts that were coming into my head. And I'll explain later on how that sort of comes about. But really, I just wasn't happy with what I was doing and what I was achieving. I was happy being a farmer. I just wasn't happy with all the other stuff that I was trying to achieve and where I was emotionally and mentally. So it led me to doing some personal growth seminars, and that led on to being exposed to the neuro-linguistic programming, and then decided to do a course. And just from there, it all just took off, really.
Right, so I'm sure a lot of people on this particular call, or if you're watching this live later on, you can relate to that's either self-sabotage or having some anger issues. I mean, we've all gone through that sort of thing. But it was that particular video that really struck a chord for me. And I thought, well, who would post something like this? And then I watched the whole video, and I was just enthralled that someone would bring up a very, very relevant sort of topic. It was very poignant to me at that particular time. It was very engaging, and I felt like it was just someone talking to an inner part of me. Okay, so if you're on this particular call and you want to learn how to get on top of that, feel free to put any of your questions in the chat bar, and Shane and I will get to them as we go through the show. So tell me, why do you do it? Tell me a little bit about the clients that you serve now, and also, if you could answer for me, why do you do this type of work?
Yeah, cool. So I guess my niche is really farmers because of my background, right? So I've got that experience of what it's like to live and grow on a farm. So if you talk about anger, a lot of farmers use anger and aggression towards controlling their working dogs, for example, because dogs and animals respond to a tone of voice really well. So you could say to a dog in a real angry voice, "You're the nicest dog ever," but really angry with an angry tone, and they'll probably hide in the corner. But they use anger to get the control. So because I've got the experience of being on the farm, I guess I relate really well to those kind of people. And that being said, I get other, people from the city and from the urban variety that come to me for help. But that's really my base of who I work for and who I target at the moment. Why do I do it? Because I just see the change that I can get in people. Like I saw the change I got in myself through doing the programs. And then I said to myself, it would be selfish to keep all this information to myself. So I just really am fulfilled in helping other people overcome obstacles and past traumas and stuff like that, or past negative emotions that they've got that's holding them back, because I know what it's like to hold yourself back, and it's just not fair. It's not fair on yourself, and then it's not fair on your family as well.
Yeah, it's not fair on the people that love you. I think that was my version of what was happening in my life, that when somebody didn't explain something well to me, they thought that it was okay just to raise the voice and say exactly the same thing. And it wasn't that I was stupid. It wasn't that I didn't understand, but I just couldn't understand why they were yelling now, because I didn't actually get it. So yeah, that's what really resonated with me.
It quite often, the yelling just quite often comes from trying to take control back. So anger really stems from a loss of control for 90% of people.
So what's been your biggest challenge in growing this business, and how have you overcome it?
The biggest challenge for me initially was, I guess coming to Sydney was a big move, and then finding clients, right? Like back at home, I was sort of interacting with people on the street as much as I was online, because I was in my local town. So then coming to Sydney, I didn't really know that many people here. So getting my name exposed and getting out there was probably the biggest thing. And the way I overcame that is I actually joined a mentorship where I pay for a 15-month mentorship, and it's with a guy called Richmond Dinn, who is the coach's coach of Australia, really, and he teaches you how to get exposure online, especially using Facebook. Since doing that, it's just really accelerated, just gone like skyrocketed. So I guess the answer to the question is, if you don't know how to do something, is get a coach and find out how to do it. Find someone who knows the answers and elicit their strategies.
And that's what I'm seeing more and more of these days. You don't have to be an expert in anything. If you come across something that's a challenge for you, then just go and seek help. So why wouldn't you get it from a coach? Tell me, what are you doing to grow your business? I mean, I'm a part of that community, but is that your number one strategy, your Facebook group?
Yeah. So the biggest thing I do now is with my Facebook group and my personal page, but I'm just going to constantly put content out there on how to help, different things to help people with different ideas and stuff like that. So I'm just constantly creating videos, posting videos, or just posting written content as well to help get more information out there. I mean, the best way for someone to learn something is to be exposed to the information. So the more I can put out, the more I can help.
Correct. And I mean, I can't tell you how many videos I consumed after seeing that story you shared with the working dogs. I found that really interesting and funny at times, but very educational as well. And then I just consumed more and more and more. So that's obviously working for you. So the group is growing at a large rate. So we'll put a link down in the feed here onto that particular Facebook group. But I really want Shane to spend bulk of the time today on how do people overcome that that negative programming. So I will leave it up to you. This is the part that I call lights, camera, action. I'm going to pass the interview over to you so that you can share with us a story and then take people through a journey and a listening, just the way you normally do it with your normal lives.
Yeah, cool. So, the easiest way for me to get information to you is if you've got a question to ask. So as I'm speaking, if you've got a question, just type it in, and I'm sure that Glenn will just fire it at me when we get an opportunity. But to start with, I'll just quickly explain how we produce any kind of behavior. So the unconscious mind is responsible for 95% of everything we do every day. Now, if you think about driving your car, you jump in the car, you turn the key, you put it in gear, you're changing gears, you're indicating the wipers, accelerating, braking. Now, if you think about you getting to work today, you're probably 95% of it, even 100% of it was unconscious patterns. It was just happening. You trained yourself how to do it. Now, the only time you would consciously think about something different when you're driving is if you have to go somewhere different. You go, I need to go down that street, so I have to be aware of which street to go down. And if you think about everything else in life, it is all 95% unconsciously happening in the background outside of your awareness. So if you're succeeding at something, 95% of the reason you succeeded was the unconscious behaviors and patterns you've got. So if you're an elite sports person, you train yourself to automatically just swing the tennis racket in whichever hand or whichever stroke is going to be best to return the ball. Now, if you're failing at anything, 95% of the reason you're failing is happening outside of your awareness in your unconscious mind. And now how does that happen? Your unconscious mind is programmed through what's ever happened in the past, right? And most importantly, the first 7 years is what they call the imprint period. So for the first 7 years of your life, they say you're pretty much unconscious. Whatever happens, you just download to be true. However it happens the first time, you go, that's true, that's how it happens, because you haven't developed the questioning faculty in your mind. So a classic example is if someone said to me before I was 7, Shane, you can't ride a bike, I'd just go, oh yeah, cool, I can't ride a bike. I believed it because I was told that. Now, if someone told me when I was 3, hey, Shane, I want to teach you how to ride a bike, you can ride a bike, I'll be riding a bike by the time I'm 3. And it's just because we just believe whatever we've been told. So a lot of that comes from our parents. Now, if you're in an environment where you're constantly being told off or told you can't do something, you download the belief I'm wrong, or you download the belief I can't achieve. Now, imagine being a 40-year-old with a belief pattern that's been inside of you for 35, 40 years that you just can't achieve or that you're not good enough, right? So this is where I was. I grew up, and I'm not necessarily blaming my parents. There was a lot of other things. However, I grew up thinking I couldn't achieve, because if I can probably just quickly go through this. I grew up in a real small school, and I was only one of 3 boys my age. The other 2 boys were kind of good mates because they lived in the local marae. They were married boys, so they had their connection. I felt like I was left out. So then I felt like I was a loner. Then I thought, well, if I'm a loner and I'm not accepted, I really craved acceptance, but I was too scared to put myself out there in case I got rejected. So I took on a massive fear of rejection. Having a fear of rejection stopped me trying to achieve anything, so I took on a fear of failure. Now, when you take on the fear of failure, then it's like, well, if I don't achieve anything, then no one's going to like me because I'm not achieving. So if nobody likes me, how can I like myself? Now, if I don't like myself, no one's going to love me. How would I love myself? Now, if you think about growing up thinking, I don't love myself, no one else is going to love me, you start feeling really lonely. So you start doubting yourself. And when you doubt yourself, you start having a lot of negative thoughts, and the negative thoughts control you. So it took a lot for me to overcome that. And I used alcohol. I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic, but I was really good at drinking. Like if I was having one, I was having 21, and it was most weekends. In the army, the alcohol was real cheap. So I was Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. Just to suppress who I was on the outside, on the inside, I was using alcohol to change who I was on the outside. And I found that I was really a different person, a lot more relaxed and a lot more able to express who I was when I was drunk. But it wasn't working for me. So it got to the point where I actually quit alcohol. I quit alcohol just over 10 years ago now. And then that started allowing me to really think of other ways to understand who I was on the inside and why I was holding myself back. And that's when I realized it was the negative thoughts. It was the negative thought pattern that had been downloaded from such a young age that was stopping me achieving, going out to try and do more. And so, yeah, I did the neuro-linguistic programming that I spoke about, and it teaches you how to realign those negative thoughts. And when I'm coaching someone, I use timeline therapy, because timeline therapy works directly with the unconscious mind and it integrates it with the conscious mind. So I have the ability now to remove patterns from the unconscious mind, and then I teach you how to reprogram yourself so that you program yourself with a positive thought. Now, it's quite a long process, and I like to sort of, it takes like 8 hours. And for example, I spent 8.5 hours with someone yesterday, and we did the whole thing all in one go. Now, we either do that all in one go, or we can spread it out over a number of sessions. To do that, you've got to really go deep and identify all the past events that you've got a negative charge on, whether it's events or people. And then I teach you how to find the positive learnings from those events, which then we consume them into the unconscious mind so that you are acting out of the positive aspect of that event or that person that's been in your life. And I teach you how to dissolve the negative part of it. So yeah, like I say, that's the program that I run, and it's quite an in-depth program. Now, if I want to give you a tip now, is how you can replace those negative thoughts. Is interesting. I just actually listened to a podcast, an audiobook from Gabby Bernstein, I think her name is, and she's got a real simple system. So this is the one that I like to use right now. Is when you get a negative thought, you want to notice the thought and acknowledge it. You want to forgive yourself for having the thought, and then choose the new thought. It's a 3-step process. It's really simple, really, really simple to follow. So notice the thought and acknowledge it. forgive yourself for having it, and then choose the other thought. Now, the key there is to choose, because you always choose everything you get in your life. Now, that's probably triggered a few people to go, no, this happened because of someone else. Well, you chose to react based on the program you had from when you were so young. Now, the only way to change that is to choose a different reaction, to choose a different thought. So that's the quick step, or the quick solution I give now for how to change a negative thought right now. And it's going to take a lot of repetition to get that into place, but it's consistency that pays off.
Do you know, Shane, my own version of that is that it's about sometimes taking responsibility for things. You know, I had, this is going back probably about 5 years ago, I had a little black VW Borer, and I was sitting at a set of lights, and the lights went green, and I took off, and a car came through a red light and hit me. And we were arguing that the light was green for me and it wasn't for him, sort of thing. But the end result is, when I was telling a friend, I sort of said, well, actually, that's my fault. And they said, how is it your fault? Surely he came through the red light. And I said, I chose to be on that road. I chose to be there at that time. And so it's totally my fault, right?
Yeah.
And I take responsibility for that. When I started thinking that along those lines, I was able to control a different outcome then, rather than look at all of these things just happening to me. And it's a very different perspective that you go into life and things, because, I mean, you've got choice all around you. Look, I've got a couple of comments that I'm going to bring into the area. This one comes from Sarah. It just says, yeah, but basically what she was sort of saying, Sarah's a coach. I'd love you to come on and pop a question in there, Sarah. Here we've got from Sal, a great example of self-awareness. Is that the first, that comes from Sal, is that the first example or an example that you can share with most people today? What is the first stage that you take people through?
The first stage is, so the first stage I do is they normally come to me with a problem, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then I go, okay, that's the problem. Then I go, what's the pattern that's producing the problem? So I hope you can't hear that helicopter. I go, yeah, what's the pattern that's produced that problem? Because if I fix the problem and the pattern's still playing out, it's just going to be replaced with something else. So I use the drinking one again. Now, some people want to quit drinking because it's causing a problem in their life. But the pattern of the drinking will just be that the pattern is still going to produce the stress. So you're going to replace it with smoking or gambling or something else, right? Mm-hmm. So I find the problem, then I find the pattern that's produced it. Now, the most important part of it, though, is I find what caused the pattern. What's the root cause of that? And it quite often, very, very often comes back to that 0 to 7 year age. What was the first time you experienced something that caused you to play out that pattern in your life? So that's the first 3 stages of anything is find the problem, find the pattern that produced it, and find the primary root cause of that pattern. And then I change the primary root cause, so we intercept the pattern.
So it then is just repetition that comes on for people? Replaying the music?
Yeah. So after I do my intervention, I teach people how to reprogram their unconscious mind by having repetition, a real good morning routine, and incantations and repetition like that to really start the day and also finish the day strong. So that you're reprogramming the unconscious mind. It's going back to being 7 or under 7 is you get to start again. Because if I don't teach them how to reprogram it, they'll just go back to the same old patterns.
Well, I think that's the difference between someone who really understands the programming and being able to help you get over there. Because look, I'll be honest with you, I've seen lots of coaches out there, and I've seen a lot of life coaches out there, and most of the life coaches I've seen out there just did a course to help themselves, and then think that they can help a lot of other people. And they probably have the information, but they don't necessarily have the skill set to actually be able to do that. So it's not often that I get someone who's a life coach onto the show, and it's for that reason. Okay. Whereas you actually have experienced in watching you in your group help people with real problems. So, and have the skills to do that. Hey, listen, I've got a very dear friend of mine. Thanks very much for being on the show, Audra. You've popped in a question here sort of saying, explain the program itself. I'm not sure that I understand that question. So if you could just type in a little bit more about what you mean by that, and I'll come back to you. This one comes from, let me see. This one comes from, wow, a great friend of mine, Leah. She's in the States. She says, here's right. The beliefs that you hold become your operating system. You subconsciously take actions that lead you to ending up in the same place until you change your beliefs. What do you say to that one, Shane?
Yeah, dead right. If you don't interrupt the pattern, it's just going to play out the same. And it might not play directly in the same line, but you'll end up in the same place because the pattern's just subconsciously happening. So you've got to interrupt the pattern real early on. And that's that finding that primary root cause. And if you can remove that root cause and replace it with a new one or a new belief, then straight away that old pattern is going to be gone, and you'll just end up on a different trajectory straight away.
That's exactly how some people just sort of saying, why do all these things just keep happening to me? And they don't realize it's the same thing. I always remember something from Monty Python, and there's these two fish and they're swimming around in a bowl, and it's only a small bowl, and they swim around and they say, oh, look, it's a castle. And then they swim around and go, oh, look, it's a castle. And often it's so easy to spot those types of patterns in your friends, but you can't spot them in yourself, can you?
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes you don't want to admit it too, that you're just going round and round in circles.
Well, I think that's the key. I think if you really do have a good look at yourself, you can sort of go, that is me. It's just what to do with it after that happens. We've had, okay, Audra come back, and she's just said he's already explained the system. So thanks very much for that, Audra. And lovely to have you on the show. Appreciate that. Guy called John. He's, I guess, just agreeing with us. Right. Okay. So what would someone do? What's the stage that people have for working with you? How does someone contact you or find more about you?
So there's two ways, really. I've got a website, shanebird.com. Now, that's just got a lot of information on it, and there's actually an e-course on there, which is a video series that you can just download, which just gives you a bit of an insight into how you can change your habits in the morning routine and stuff. So yeah, otherwise, there's lots of other information on there about timeline therapy, neuro-linguistic programming, and other things that I do. That's shanebird.com. And then the other way, which is the easiest way, is if you're on Facebook, is to look me up, Shane Bird. And then I make a lot of contact with people through Messenger and stuff like that. And you can also join my group. The Facebook group is a free group to join. It's called The Achievers Mindset. So you just punch that into Facebook. Otherwise, you'll find the link on my page anyway, or through Glenn, you'll find it as well. So yeah, they're the best ways to contact me.
Okay. Now, look, I'm not sure about you, but I've been, and everybody on the call, I've been on lots of groups, and most groups, you join them and there's very little content afterwards. You know, you could, or you don't see anything for 2 to 3 weeks. That's not this particular group. I can tell you that there's content coming out every day. I was just chatting with Shane before the call, and now I understand, you know, he's got a program for that, but it comes down to consistency. And all the content is really good. So if this is your first stage, or you're just going to listen to this, then jump into the group, because I can promise you, just watching a couple of videos and getting some stuff, you'll start to think differently about yourself if this is the beginning of your journey in that. Shane, I always like to add value to my particular audience, and I just wondered if you've got anything that you could perhaps give away to them in this particular group.
Yeah, I've got 2 things actually. So I've got an ebook, which is a free giveaway that I give away just, you know, different times throughout the year. I just put that up on, or it's available any time of the year, but I just promote that every few months. And I've also got the video series I spoke of, which is the follow on from the ebook. So the ebook is 9 habits that you can implement in your life that's going to give you a positive change to help you manage your mindset. And then, so it's very brief. And then I've got the video series that goes in depth on each of those 9 categories, plus there's a couple of bonuses in there, which you can find on my website under e-course. Now, actually, what I will do, if anyone messages me on my Facebook page, sends me a private message, says they were on this live today, I'll give them the video series for free. So it's normally $39. I'll just send it to you for free. I'll send you the link and the password, and you can just download that and watch it for free.
Wow, that's fantastic. Because it really comes down to actually consuming it and doing something about it, right? All of us have got stuff on our computers. And one thing that I have learned is that when you download it and you don't take action, it's really pointless. And really, or you say to yourself, I know that already. It's kind of like you actually don't know because you don't implement it, right?
Yeah,
so, take Shane up on his offer and reach out to him and have a chat with him. All right. So whether or not you keep on just finding yourself really angry all the time, or finding that things aren't going the way that you want them to, you're going through relationships and you don't know why you keep on burning people. You might be doing the same thing with customers and getting really frustrated. Or even if you identify that there is someone in part of your work group that just seems to be always upset and always angry. Weight is another one that that people pile on. They might pile on weight because they're stressed about something. So if you've got a friend and you really care about them, why don't you reach out to them and do an introduction? I can promise you that Shane will follow up with you personally, but that's a great way to actually create value for someone that you care about. So listen, thanks very much for being on today's call, Shane. I really appreciate the fact that you booked this out several weeks ago. We did, but it's great to have you on. And I look forward to, I guess, learning more about you and how I can serve you better.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. That's great. And thanks for having me. And if anyone's got anything they want me to create content on, just let me know, because I'll just create a video or a post. I don't necessarily need to put their name in it. I can just do it as a general post for everybody, which I normally do anyway. And it's a real good way for me to really add value to people, because then I know what they're looking for at the time too. So yeah, just reach out and ask.
Oh, listen, I got one more. This one comes from Sarah. Now, just so that everybody knows, if you want your face to pop up or your Facebook profile to file, you've just got to click one of the links, and that means that your image comes up. But I know through looking at the other screen that this is from Sarah. She says, love that you don't just stop at interrupting the pattern. You go to the root cause of the need to run that pattern and address that. Yeah, well, being in that particular space, Sarah, you know that some people will just keep on solving the problem. You've probably seen that in your life too. So thanks very much. Hey, Shane, thanks very much. We'll sign off now. All right, this is Glenn Kirkwood, aka That Referral Guy, signing off with a reminder to make, build, and share connections. I'll see you next time.